It began with a trembling voice and a single post, a photo of a woman whose eyes carried the hollow ache of loss, her words pleading through a blur of tears. "Please, help me find my husband." Within hours, that image had become a beacon of sympathy, echoing across timelines and living rooms. Claire Dawson, 34, appeared broken yet brave, her anguish feeding the community's need to comfort. Cameras later caught her pacing her porch, clutching a mug she never drank from, her gaze fixed on the woods as though they might answer her. People saw grief. They saw devotion. But one woman, Detective Marie Holt, 46, saw something else. She saw control beneath chaos, and in that now viral Facebook photo, beneath all the filters and desperation, Claire had left behind something damning. A reflection. A clue. The tiniest slip that would begin to undo her entire performance. Morning breaks over a restless town. The local police organize search parties as volunteers gather outside the Dawson home, clutching maps and coffee cups. Claire stands among them, her expression painted perfectly between despair and strength. Cameras flash as she repeats her plea for help, voice trembling just enough to sound true. Tom Willis, 41, watches her from the curb, sensing something off. The timing of her tears, the way her gaze shifts when no one's looking. Detective Holt arrives quietly, clipboard in hand, observing the performance unfold. Every sentence Claire speaks feels rehearsed, every gesture slightly too precise. Beneath the compassion and candlelight, something calculated hums just beneath her breath. By afternoon, the story spreads beyond the county lines. News vans arrive, reporters shout questions, and Claire, bathed in their camera's light, delivers her statements with fragile grace. She knows what to say, when to cry, when to look down, when to ask for privacy. Yet, in her home, investigators note subtle contradictions. The time she said Ethan left, the shoes by the door, the untouched breakfast plate. Detective Holt reviews the Facebook post again, her instincts whispering louder with every replay. Something in that photo doesn't add up. Not what's seen, but what's reflected. As evening falls, the neighborhood dims under the weight of exhaustion. The searchers return empty-handed. Claire thanks each one softly, her trembling hands resting over her heart. Inside, she collapses into the silence. No witnesses, no pity, just the echo of her own breathing. On the coffee table, her phone buzzes with messages from strangers calling her brave. In the background, that same photo still glows on her laptop screen, frozen in digital eternity. Holt, meanwhile, scrolls through the image once more. Her eyes fix on a faint gleam near the kitchen counter, a reflection of something metallic, something that should have been there if Ethan had truly vanished. Night settles over the Dawson house. Rain drips steadily from the eaves as Claire sits by the window, bathed in the soft glow of her phone. She replays the news coverage of herself, her own voice echoing through the room like an actor reviewing a performance. For the first time, her face softens, not with sorrow, but relief. She believes the world has accepted her story. Outside, the street is silent. Inside, Detective Holt's phone lights up with a message from forensics. The photo metadata is inconsistent. The timestamp, the angle, the reflection, none of it matches Claire's version of events. Somewhere, beneath her perfect performance, the truth has already begun to bleed through. By morning, sympathy had soured into scrutiny. The same neighbors who once hugged Claire now whispered in low voices, replaying her interviews and counting inconsistencies. Detective Marie Holt, 46, walked the Dawson property again, her gaze tracing the ground like a pen over paper, collecting fragments of truth. Claire, 34, followed her from the porch, every step rehearsed, every sigh timed. But beneath her calm voice, Holt heard tremors, the kind that come from keeping stories straight. The journalist, Tom Willis, 41, waited across the street, camera ready. He noticed it too. The shifting timelines, the way Claire referred to her husband in the past tense. The picture of grief had begun to crack. And through those cracks, something colder began to show. Inside the Dawson kitchen, sunlight filters through thin curtains, washing everything in pale gold. Holt studies the counter, the placement of objects, the untouched fruit bowl, the coffee cup, the faint ring of condensation. Claire stands nearby, answering questions that grow sharper with every pass. She insists Ethan, 38, left after breakfast, but her words falter when Holt points to the single untouched plate at the table. Silence stretches, heavy as the air before a storm. Holt marks her notes without expression. Claire forces a smile, her knuckles white around the edge of the counter. The smallest pause, the faintest hesitation, and Holt knows. Something about this kitchen is lying. The Facebook post that started it all now lives on a dozen news sites. Each share brings more attention and more scrutiny. Tom Willis, 41, sifts through screenshots on his laptop at the newsroom, eyes narrowing. A metadata timestamp doesn't match Claire's account of when she posted. The photo, according to the data, wasn't taken the morning Ethan disappeared, but late the night before. Willis leans back, the hum of the newsroom fading as realization settles in. He glances at the photo again, that faint reflection in the kitchen window, the one no one noticed. He zooms closer, frame by frame. It isn't just a reflection, it's evidence. And if he's right, it changes everything. By afternoon, Claire's story starts to unravel in whispers and headlines. Inconsistencies in viral missing case, one reads. Reporters gather outside her home again, their tone colder now. Inside, Claire paces, clutching her phone as comments shift from sympathy to suspicion. Her once adoring audience begins dissecting her every word. Detective Holt, meanwhile, stands in the precinct's evidence room, reviewing printouts. The metadata, the reflection, the time gap. The pattern is forming. Claire's grief was staged, a performance rehearsed with precision, undone by one invisible frame of truth. Holt exhales slowly, feeling the first flicker of certainty. That night, the sky presses low and heavy over the neighborhood. Claire sits on her couch in silence, the TV muted, her phone buzzing relentlessly with unread messages. Each notification feels like a heartbeat growing louder. Outside, Tom Willis, 41, watches from his car, his headlights off. He knows what Holt suspects, but wants to hear it from Claire herself. The door opens. Just a crack, and Claire steps onto the porch, lit by the blue glow of her phone. She scrolls through her own post again, seeing it now through their eyes. For the first time, her mask falters. The tremble isn't rehearsed, it's real. The truth is beginning to breathe. The illusion begins to crumble in pixels and code. Inside the precinct, Detective Marie Holt, 46, stares at a monitor as the digital forensics technician walks her through the data, recovered from Claire's viral post. Each timestamp, each metadata tag, each trace of location forms a pattern too precise to be chance. The photo wasn't posted in panic. It was planned. Meanwhile, Tom Willis, 44, sits in his car outside the Dawson home, dictating his next article. He senses the story's shift, from tragedy to deceit. Claire Dawson, 34, paces her kitchen, her phone lighting her face in anxious blue. Every time she refreshes the post, more questions appear. Somewhere inside that photo, the one the world pitied, the truth waits like static in the dark. The small town hums with rumor, but inside the evidence room, Holt's focus is surgical. Every detail on the Dawson photo is dissected. Reflections, shadows, light, direction. When enhanced, the image shows the faint outline of Ethan Dawson, 38, still standing in the kitchen behind Claire, alive at the time the post was taken. The implication lands like thunder. Claire hadn't posted a plea for a missing husband. She'd posted a lie before he ever disappeared. Holt's pulse steadies. The truth isn't loud. It's quiet, methodical, patient. And in that quiet, everything Claire built is beginning to rot. Tom Willis, 41, races to his editor's office, clutching a printed image of the photo's reflection. His words spill fast. Metadata inconsistency, false timestamp, premeditated post. The editor hesitates, torn between ethics and exposure. Meanwhile, Claire sits alone at her table, scrolling through her feed. The post that once earned her empathy now teems with accusations. Why was it posted so early? Did you stage this? The comments multiply like wildfire. Each one erodes her composure. She tries to reply, but her trembling hands can't keep up. Across town, Holt listens to a lab tech confirm it. The photo's creation time proves the post was staged. The case is no longer about a missing husband. It's about deception caught in plain sight. Night falls heavy over the precinct. Detective Holt's office glows with the pale light of her monitor, the evidence file open beside her. She replays Claire's interview, the way her eyes flitted right when mentioning the time she noticed he was gone. It aligns perfectly with the timestamp on the post. Holt exhales slowly, her conviction sharpening into certainty. She writes one line in her notes. Photo posted pre-disappearance. Outside, rain hammers the windows. Claire, alone in her home, deletes comment after comment, unaware that deletion changes nothing. Data remembers everything. By dawn, the story has flipped. News anchors now call Claire, the woman who cried wolf. The same image that once drew compassion now headlines every network. Holt watches quietly as the truth goes public, her expression unreadable. The town's sympathy curdles into disbelief. Tom Willis uploads his article, his cursor hovering before the final click. And Claire, sitting alone in a dim kitchen, the air thick with silence, realizes her performance is over. No one is searching anymore. The digital trail she thought erased has come full circle, glowing bright as guilt in the dark. By now, the town has turned against her. The Facebook post that once drew sympathy now feeds the storm. Work, not why no. The bottom talk shows, commenters dig through Claire Dawson's 34 old photos, dissecting smiles and captions, hunting for cracks in her story. Reporters gather at the edge of her lawn, their microphones raised like weapons. Inside, Claire clutches her phone, her eyes darting across headlines that no longer call her grieving wife, but suspect Detective Marie Holt, 46, stands at a distance, watching the crowd through her car windshield. She doesn't need to confront Claire yet. The world is doing it for her. Tom Willis, 41, reports live from the scene, his voice measured, his conscience heavy. The town's faith has turned into fury, and beneath it all, Claire rehearses her next plea, the one she hopes might save her. The interview is her last chance to reclaim the narrative. Claire sits across from Tom in a sterile studio, her face pale beneath the studio lights. She clutches a tissue, glancing down before answering each question. But her pauses betray her, too deliberate, too calculated. Tom's questions press closer. The timeline, the reflection, the timestamp. Claire's breath catches as he mentions the watch. The cameras capture the exact moment her expression cracks. The audience won't notice right away, but Holt will. Watching the feed later, she'll pause at that frame. The one where Claire's eyes drop, not in grief, but in fear. As the interview airs, Detective Holt studies every word, every glance. She watches from her office, surrounded by evidence boards and flickering screens. Claire's nervous swallow when asked about the kitchen, her slip when referring to Ethan, 38, in the past tense again. Holt's instincts harden. She dials for a warrant to seize Claire's phone, the missing piece between story and proof. Meanwhile, Claire sits at home watching herself on screen, her voice echoing through the house like a stranger's. Each replay deepens the isolation. Every word that once inspired pity now sounds like guilt. Night falls, and with it comes silence. The crowd outside the Dawson house has thinned, replaced by shadows and the faint hum of distant traffic. Claire walks through the darkened rooms barefoot, her reflection following in every pane of glass. Her phone buzzes again, a message request from someone she doesn't recognize. She opens it. A single image of her viral post, zoomed into the reflection of Ethan's watch. No caption, no threat. Just the truth, staring back at her. Her hand trembles as she deletes it, though she knows deletion means nothing. Every lie she's told now exists twice. Once in memory, once in data. Detective Holt doesn't sleep. The digital warrant grants her access to Claire's accounts, messages, drafts, deleted posts. Within hours, the missing fragments align. Scheduled posts, backdated captions, saved photos she never meant to share. Holt exhales as the pieces click into place. The Facebook post wasn't panic. It was premeditation. The small detail Claire forgot, the timestamp, the reflection, was the one thing technology refused to lie about. And now, the story that began with a desperate plea is circling back like a storm. Holt stands, the case file in hand, and heads for the door. Tomorrow, there will be no more questions, only answers. Morning breaks cold and pale over the precinct. Detective Marie Holt, 46, stands before a wall of evidence, the air thick with quiet certainty. Every thread on the board leads back to one moment. The Facebook post. Claire Dawson, 34, thought emotion could hide precision, that tears could erase timestamps. But Holt knows better. She replays the metadata trail on her monitor. Scheduled posts, edited captions, location pings that contradict Claire's statement. The puzzle is no longer missing pieces. It's overfilled with truth. Outside, reporters swarm again, hungry for closure. Holt exhales, slips on her coat, and decides it's time to confront the woman who tried to outsmart time itself. At the Dawson house, silence hums beneath the sound of a ticking clock. Claire opens the door to find Holt on her porch, calm, composed, unreadable. The air between them holds every unspoken truth. Holt asks if they can talk, voice steady, almost gentle. Claire hesitates, then nods. Stepping aside, inside the atmosphere feels thinner, the staged warmth replaced by tension. Holt scans the room, the same setting from the viral photo. Every detail matches except one. The watch is gone. Claire's fingers tighten around the edge of the table as Holt sits opposite her, notebook closed. There are no more questions, only the quiet weight of evidence pressing in from every direction. Holt begins softly, recounting the timeline as though telling a story. Each correction lands with precision. The post time, the reflection, the metadata signature linking it all. Claire's eyes flicker, darting between defiance and fatigue. She insists she was confused, emotional, scared. Holt listens, silent, patient, then slides a photo across the table. The reflection of Ethan's, 38, silhouette standing behind her in the kitchen. Claire's composure falters. The silence after feels endless. Holt doesn't need a confession. The truth is already written in pixels and silence. All that remains is acknowledgement. In the precinct interview room later that day, cameras hum quietly as Holt records her final statement. Claire sits opposite, her face pale beneath the flickering fluorescent lights. She admits nothing directly, but her words betray intent. The planned post, the argument, the decision to control the narrative. Holt listens without interruption, pen poised but unmoving. Every word Claire speaks seals the shape of the truth, not through confession but through omission. When the recording stops, Holt looks at her, not with triumph, but with quiet understanding. The performance has finally ended. The performance has finally ended. As dusk falls, Holt steps outside the precinct, the city humming in the distance. The case is complete, though its echoes will linger. In a world where truth lives forever in the digital haze, one overlooked reflection revealed everything. Holt looks up at the fading sky, her breath visible in the cold air. Inside, a clerk files the final report. Case closed. Across town, Claire sits alone in her dim living room, the phone dark, the world outside still turning. What began as a plea for help has become a lesson written in pixels and permanence. The internet never forgets. Morning arrives muted and gray. The kind of day where the world feels suspended between past and consequence. Inside the precinct, Detective Marie Holt, 46, prepares the final interview. The air carries that familiar tension. The quiet before truth breaks open. Across from her, Claire Dawson, 34, sits with folded hands, her gaze fixed on the tabletop. Her voice is low, almost calm, when she begins to speak. She doesn't confess in a single sentence. She unravels in fragments, motives disguised as mistakes, fear disguised as love. Holt doesn't interrupt. She lets the silence do the work. Each pause, each glance downward, fills in the words Claire can't bring herself to say aloud. Claire's words spill like static, her voice flat, detached. She speaks of control, perception, the way people believe what they see online. She insists she never meant for things to go this far, that she only wanted attention, sympathy, forgiveness. Holt listens, expression unreadable, as Claire describes how carefully she crafted her post. The lighting, the caption, the trembling tone. The irony is too sharp to ignore. The same precision that built her illusion now dismantles it. Holt marks each phrase in her notes, her pen moving with quiet rhythm. When Claire finishes, the room feels colder, smaller, as though even the air itself recoils from her words. Outside the interview room, the world moves on. Journalists pace the hallway, waiting for confirmation of what everyone already suspects. Tom Willis, 41, watches from behind the glass panel, camera lowered, expression conflicted. He's covered countless stories, but none have ever felt this personal. He knows the internet will devour this confession within minutes. Every word clipped, shared, spun. Holt emerges at last, her face composed but heavy with the weight of truth. No victory, no satisfaction. Just the quiet gravity that comes from seeing human desperation turned digital spectacle. As dusk settles, Holt reviews the full transcript in her office. Every line of Claire's statement plays back through her mind. Rehearsed guilt, accidental honesty. She scrolls through the viral post once more, reading the comments left untouched. Strangers demanding answers, others offering pity. The screen's glow feels colder than ever. Claire's confession may close the case, but the world that fed it, the need for spectacle, the hunger for tragedy, remains unsatisfied. Holt knows tomorrow a new story will take its place. Still, this one will linger, burned into digital memory like a fingerprint. At sunrise, Claire sits alone in a holding cell. The light from the narrow window paints soft lines across her face. There are no cameras now, no sympathy, no audience, just quiet. She replays everything: the post, the interviews, the silence between questions. The irony, she realizes, is cruel. She wanted to be seen, and now she is, completely. Detective Holt walks past the cell, once pausing only briefly. No words, no nod, just a shared understanding that truth, once revealed, doesn't set you free. It simply exists. The post remains online, archived forever, a monument to the smallest detail that undid it all. Days later, the storm begins to quiet. The news cycle moves on, but echoes of the Dawson case linger like static in the town's collective memory. Detective Marie Holt, 46, drives through the rain-washed streets, passing houses with drawn curtains and lawns littered with forgotten flyers. She wonders how easily compassion turns to suspicion, and how a single image could both inspire and destroy. And at every stoplight, the glow of her dashboard reflects her tired eyes. Eyes that have seen too many stories crafted for sympathy and shattered by truth. Somewhere behind those curtained windows, people still scroll, still share, still believe. In a small newsroom, Tom Willis, 41, edits his final article on the case. The clatter of keyboards fills the background, but he types slower now, each word measured. He writes not about guilt or innocence, but about a photograph, how a single reflection revealed everything. The piece ends quietly without accusation. As he saves the draft, he glances at the comments section already forming beneath it. The audience has opinions, not understanding. Tom sighs, closes his laptop, and looks out at the fading daylight. In a world built on attention, truth feels smaller than it should. At the precinct, Holt reviews the final paperwork. Claire Dawson's 34 case file lies neatly on her desk, closed, stamped, complete, yet closure feels abstract. Holt leans back, staring at the evidence photo one last time. Claire's trembling face, Ethan's 38 faint silhouette behind her. That moment captured everything: performance, motive, mistake. Holt thinks about the fragility of stories built for strangers and how quickly sympathy can twist into judgment. She shuts the folder gently, as though silence might honor the chaos it contains. Across town, Claire sits in a county facility library, dressed in standard gray, reading an old newspaper clipping about herself. The story feels distant now, as if written about someone she once played. No cameras, no pity, only the faint hum of fluorescent lights and the echo of pages turning. She closes the article and looks at her reflection in the window. For the first time, there is no performance, no mask, just a person watching the world move on without her. Outside, the morning light begins to soften. It is quiet, painfully honest. The kind of quiet she once tried to control. Weeks later, Detective Holt walks along the lakeshore where the first photo of Claire and Ethan was taken. The air is cool, still. She stops by the water, watching ripples move across the surface, reflecting light like broken glass. The sound of distant voices drifts on the wind. Laughter, life continuing. Holt knows that justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet understanding between truth and those willing to see it. She looks at the horizon, then turns away, her footsteps fading into the soft gravel. The screen fades to black, leaving only the echo of a question. How many stories begin with sympathy and end with a reflection?